Yo, what's up, my gamers? Scott Dog here, bringing at you another Rust video. Now this one's gonna be a base video, more of a understanding how a base should be good or bad, and kind of rating how a base can be as most efficient using geometry. This shouldn't be that long of a video. This is very basic concepts that I think a lot of people don't think about. All right, so I'm gonna be illustrating right off the bat that base designs are all about the efficiencies, how you can use as little materials as possible to make the strongest possible base. And when we mean strongest, we don't just mean through the doors. I made this similar point in a previous video quite a long time back. It's not that popular, but it had gained some traction in the past, and I figured I'd restate it here because it is probably the most valuable point I can make through this entire video. To better understand what makes a base strong, we have to understand the whole definition of a strong base. So when we think of a strong base, we think of how many C4, how many rockets, how many whatever does it take to raid into your base. And it's not just from the doors. I am talking using geometry. How strong is it from every position? So in this regard, the strongest structure that we got is a triagonal pyramid. Basically, the height and the sides must match in an equilibrium of how difficult it is to raid a base to how difficult it is to get on top, and make sure there's no weak points in your base. So making sure that weak points in your base are minimized, meaning that the equal amount of C4 it takes to get through the doors is the same amount to get through the roof or get through the side of a wall or whatever. Understanding that basic concept can get you basically as far as you want in any Rust base design that you ever do. Every Rust base design tutorial you'll ever see, it follows these formats. Next thing I have to point out is symmetry. Symmetry in bases is like vital if you are planning for expansion, because making sure to measure out symmetry in any base design is very valuable for space consumption, how much space you're going to be using for your base, as well as planning out how you're going to deal with rooftop access and like helicopter access and solar panels and shit like that. So making sure that you value your early game strat and not just make the most OP base known to man, the Chad base. If you're not aware, it's a 2x1 with a triagonal outside to make an airlock that every solo player starts with. Now there's a couple different bases I make here, just sitting around in this really fun sandbox, and I would recommend if you ever want to play on the sandbox with many different servers to mess around with some different base design videos. But there's a question that's usually brought up quite a bit, and it's about using verticality in your foundations, meaning if you can there's like notches of half walls in measurement of height that you can use to raise and lower foundations. This is a valuable strat if you want to really fuck with the enemy and making it as difficult as possible, but it doesn't necessarily make it more efficient. Now there's certain ways that you can make it more efficient, but they're so minute and the trouble that you have to go through is so high that it's really not worth doing these things. There's another point I want to make that a lot of people kind of forget about or just are too lazy to do, and it's called shelling. Now this procedure is not new by any means. A lot of people have been doing it for a long period of time, especially if you're in a bigger clan. This is a way to cut down on resource consumption and the upkeep of your base, especially if you're on a server that uses that, which is the majority of servers. The number one thing you can do is do this shell maneuver to where you make the frame of your base, and then you cut out the middle layer, and then make a smaller layer that's your kind of like your vault, kind of like your home base part. And then you can make a way to verticality go up into the shell, and then make firing floors, whatever, for defending your base. But here's an example. I have this big Chad base for like a huge clan, and you see the shell we have here? This is used to cut down on resources. This cuts down on around 25-30% of your total base, because obviously your outer layer is going to be the most expensive, but the second layer you can completely cut out because it's not any more efficient. Now obviously if you want to make it as hard as possible for them to blow through your walls, like you made a lot of enemies, you have a big clan, you got a lot of resources, whatever, then you can add in this lower shell, and it's really easy to do so because unlike upgrading honeycomb that's on the outer sides that you can't upgrade later on because you can't like remove it or anything, you can do this because the shell is still wide open. But for efficiency's sake, you don't need to upgrade this for a while because it still has the same amount of walls until you start putting triagonal honeycomb in there. And if you have only enough fit for square foundations, then you're kind of out of luck when it comes to more efficiency. And finally, I'm going to go over some neat little tricks that you can do to help make your base building even better than ever before. And these are some simple ones. You may know these, you may not, but I'm just going to start listing them off right now. Number one, we have airlocks. Make sure you have at least 2 doors separating yourself from the outside world, your loot room, whatever. You want to make sure you have 2 layers of protection, because if there's a pesky door camper and you open the door, you get your head blown off. They're in your base, so it's very common sense, very easy. Make sure you do that. Another quick pointer is to make sure your walls are turned the right way. Too many times I've been able to spear into people's bases because they don't put the wall the right way. This also includes high external stone gates. I am so shocked by how many people place these the wrong way. Like, you have the audacity to get so far into the game to where you get these high external stone gates, a high tier 2 bench or workbench item, just to place it the wrong way for me to ladder into instead of your gear. Yeah, I didn't think so. So make sure you place them the right way. It's really easy. Just press the R key when you're placing it, and you should be looking at the rooftop should be angled outwards towards the outside. I'm trying to picture it while narrating, so I'm using my hands a lot of hand movement going on right now. Here's also a very common thing you should start to do if you haven't already, is always have 2 access points of your base. Have an entrance point, maybe obviously at your front door, and then have a second one either on the other side of the base or up top or whatever, to make sure you have more than one way to get out of your base. This is really valuable for defending your base, and obviously when you have a firing floor, it's a lot more easy to access those points and being able to defend your base. But when you have just a little shitter starter base, make sure you always look ahead towards what you should be doing to further yourself in your base expansion. Because when you succeed, you're going to want to keep your gear. The only way you can keep your gear is to have a solid foundation on your base and make sure you expand properly. And like I said, guys, quick and painless, that was it for the video. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe if you're new. And yeah, you guys are majority not subscribed, so you guys should subscribe, or I'm gonna milk your clown. So yeah, see you guys, I guess.
At times I might be running like a brother gunning craze with army fatigues, cause every day I'm marking justice like a cure for AIDS. Swing a spade, rhyme craze. I move strategic, lyrics blaze whenever heated on point. Inflaming MCs like joints, and manufacturer reactions like unpacking. State of mind's position like a prison, my soul's attacking. Using the streets as a planes of battle. I'm rounding hostages like cattle. I sneak attacking from the shadows to leave you rattled by my militant ways. My murdering phase, assassinating traitors out of habit. My mind is tragic, still in training for this time of reigning. I'm talking terrorists, so fuck this waste of time explaining. So I'll attack.